very much better. Anyway, that was the start of a 20-year saga of trying to understand family and kin. The point here in all of this is that research is never about what you think will happen. It's all about what does happen. And that's really the only reason to do research, is to enjoy what you're doing. It's not because it's going to get you goodies in terms of material things like promotions and things. I mean, that goes without saying. But the main reason people do research is because they're interested in something. They want to find out something. It bothers them that they don't know something. Well, if I were to summarize what worked for me, I would put it like this, that I had excellent mentors who gave me a lot of leeway. As I said, my first mentor told me he said, go out and do this. My PhD supervisor was one of the world's greatest statisticians, said, come back and see me in a year. So I didn't have people who held my hand. And that worked for me. It doesn't always work for everyone. But you have to know the kind of person you are. If you need a lot of hand-holding, and there are people who do better with that, you have to find a mentor who's willing to do that. I lucked out that I was very independent and I liked doing things on my own. It's not that they left me complete, that they abandoned me. In every case, they connected me up with people and they said, if you want to find out how to do computing, go to this person. If you want to do statistics. So I did that, and it was very good practice, because when I became a researcher on my own, I knew what to do because I had done it. But they gave me a lot of leeway, but they had very high expectations. They would not accept shoddy work. And I remember being very frustrated that I would hand in things and it would come all marked up, and I would be very depressed that it doesn't seem like I'm doing anything and I'm not going anywhere and maybe I won't be able to do it. But that didn't happen, because right when I thought that, okay, I would get that very important push from my advisors, my supervisors saying, look, faculty member, you need to be a senior faculty member, you need to, and I think that's the first thing that I would urge institutionally, ULAB, and each of you individually to essentially discard. Environment where young people are encouraged, all kinds of people who normally don't do research, which is pretty much everyone, are encouraged to think about something. The second thing I'll tell you is, I think what is really important is teamwork and mentorship. There is some very good research that can be done in isolation by yourself, but even those people need to be mentored. Those people who are need to be encouraged. Their assertions are nurtured in a positive way, but that doesn't mean accepting shoddy work. It means saying that, look, you have within you the capability of doing excellent work, but you're not quite there yet. You need to go back and do more on this, but you can do it. And I think there's a fine line between sowing frustration and promoting interest. And I think each institution needs to work out the modality. And as I said, one of the things that I'm happiest about and what this program is inaugurating is the fact that the institution thinks it's important to do research. So it's what I call the right signal. It's creating a culture where you're saying that you value research, that research is an important part of academic life. It's not a luxury, it's an essential part of academic life. Some people will do more, some people will do less, but everyone should be encouraged to do research. And I think part of that encouragement is, how do you recognize people? And here I think a whole series of things have been tried out. It can accelerate promotion, you can give a cash prize, you can give increments, but all of this has to be on basis of some neutral, quality-weighted criteria, so that the rules are transparent, that if I can meet the criteria, if I can meet or exceed the bar, and the bar has to be a high one, then I will get appropriate recognition. Last but not least, well, it's not really, it's penultimate, is that I think institutions must endorse risk-taking, because research is a kind of risk. And I think there's too much of what I call very pedestrian Me Too kind of research about, people look at something and will say, I'll tweak this. They did it in men, so I'll do it in women. They did it in Brazil, so I'll do it in Bangladesh. And I think that comes about because people at some level are gaming the system. They think all they need to do is to produce a paper because that meets the formal criteria. And what I think institutions must endorse and promote is a culture of saying that you need to think originally. It's not enough just to tweak at the edges. And that, I think, is something that I think it's an institutional imperative. The biggest bugaboo about research is it doesn't happen because of lack of funding. I mean, I hear that all the time. There isn't enough money. There isn't enough resources. We can't do it because if we had $1 million, we would do great research, but we only have $100, so we can't even do it. I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, I'm a realist. There are certain things that cannot be done unless you have relatively large amounts of money. But I think those are a relatively small number of topics. There are many, many interesting things that can be explored on a shoestring budget. And some of the most creative research has come about from places which had very little money, but had good ideas, had promoted good ideas. So, I would urge you all, being a researcher is a little bit like being an entrepreneur. You need to be creative. You need to seek collaborations, you need to seek funding, you need to seek corporate sponsorships, you need to think about what will appeal to your funders and donors, but at the same time not get into it so much that all you do is tweak at the edges. You have to be true to yourself and your intellectual vision. Finally, you researchers may not know or appreciate it, but you have magical lives filled with passion, the need to know, to discover, to explore, to change the world as we know it, and ultimately to lead and not to follow. I envy and salute you. Thank you.
Head of the Department of Media Studies and Journalism. I would like to request Professor Rahman to come on stage and receive the certificate. Now I would like to request Dr. Mohammed Shimon Rahman, Associate Professor of MSJ, to come on the stage to collect his certificate. He is the additional investigator of this same project. Dr. Mohammed Shimon Rahman. And then Mr. Mohammed Abdul Qadir, Senior Lecturer of Department of Media Studies and Journalism, who is also the additional investigator of this project. In the same project, the additional investigators are Ms. Mariam Akhtar, Senior Lecturer of Media Studies and Journalism Department. Now I would also like to request Ms. Monami Hawk, Senior Lecturer of Media Studies and Journalism, to come on stage and receive the certificate. From the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, 2 projects have been granted. The first project, titled Hemigram Holistic Arsenic Mitigation Program, a holistic mitigation approach to the arsenic contamination via sensing, communication and collaboration. The chief investigator of this project is Dr. Sajjad Hossain, the head and also the professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I would like to request Dr. Sajjad Hossain to come on stage and receive the certificate. In the same project, the additional investigators are Professor Zahid Hassan Mahmood from the Department of Applied Physics, Electronics and Communication Engineering of University of Dhaka. I think he is absent. The other investigators are Dr. Nasim Mahmood, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering of ULAB. Ahmed Hasnain Jalal, Lecturer of Computer Science and Engineering. Oh, sorry. He's from actually ET, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. We have also another person from Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, Mr. Shajib Rai, lecturer. Ms. Farhana Sabrina, again from the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, who is a junior lecturer of the same department. The second project from Computer Science and Engineering Department is titled Poor Utilization of Road Networks and Variable Vehicular Speed, an Empirical and Modeling Study of the Factors to Traffic Congestion. Now I would like to invite the Chief Investigator of this project, Dr. Sifat Momin, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, to come on stage and receive his certificate. The other researchers of this, co-researchers of this project is Professor Sajjad Hussain, Head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I would like to request Professor Sajjad Hussain to come on stage. The other co-researchers are Dr. Nasim Mahmood, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering. Dr. Abul Kalam Al-Azad, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering. Mr. Mahmoud Al-Faisal Al-Amin, Senior Lecturer of the same department. From the discipline of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, we have one project which has been granted, titled Measurement and Analysis of Traffic Noise. The chief investigator of this project is Mr. Madin Mahbub, lecturer of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. I would like to request him to come on stage. The other researchers of the same project, I would like to request Professor Rizal Karim Mojumdar, the head of the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, to come on stage. Mr. Shajib Rai, lecturer of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. Again, we have Dr. Abul Kalam Al-Azad from Computer Science and Engineering, who is also the co-researcher of this project. From the General Education Department, we have one project titled Underuse of the Domestic Violence Prevention and Protection Act 2010. Now I would like to request Dr. Heather N. Goldsmith, Assistant Professor and Acting Director of General Education Department, to come on stage. From the Business Administration Program, we have two proposals which have been granted. The first one is Review of Bangladesh Monetary Policy 2009 to 2013. The chief investigator is Ms. Labana Sadia Chaudhry, Senior Lecturer of Business Administration Department. The other project of the same department is the impact of index options introduction on volatility and liquidity, evidence from the Asia, India, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. The chief investigator is Mr. Muhammad Mohibul Islam, lecturer of Business Administration.
Firstly, I'm going to cite a recent article by Professor M. Emeritus Hafiz G.A. Siddiqui it's very recent, it was in yesterday's The Daily Star, who talks about the importance of establishing a specific university culture based on professionalism and transparency of operations. In particular, he singles out the importance of research, and I quote, "Some Bangladeshi private universities are more than 20 years old. It is time for them to graduate to research university. That is, give higher emphasis on research, expand research facilities and research grants." I think this event here at ULAB today, we have taken the first step in achieving that sort of goal that Professor Siddiqui is advocating, which for me can